Hello there. It's me, that divination witch. I hope you're all doing well. Now, I am here with another witchy video. This is another in my series of spirits and deities that I have encountered. I have a series where I'm sharing my experiences with different spirits, trying to help you guys, especially anyone who's new to this, who maybe is interested in working with a certain spirit or deity and you haven't got a clue where to begin. Well, sometimes hearing other people's points of view can help, and that's what I intend to do. Now, you'll know who it is from the title who I'm going to be talking about today. It's Persephone. She is a deity that has been requested several times by several different people for me to talk about, and at time of filming it's the spring equinox, so I felt like what better time than to film a video about her. So here I am. So this is my experience with Persephone. Let's get into it. And if you're new here, I hope you stick around and hit subscribe. My name's Sarah, I'm that divination witch, and yes, this is a safe space, so if you've got any questions or anything you want me to cover, let me know. No question is a silly question. I've also got a link tree below if you're interested in getting a reading from me. I've got a shop, I've got a Patreon, and I'd be so grateful if you could check it out. Thank you. Persephone. Who is she? Now, Persephone is the Hellenic Greek goddess of the springtime, but also the underworld. She's a very complex lady in that regard. Who isn't complex, I suppose? But those are her two main roles, being goddess of the underworld and goddess of the springtime. So today is spring equinox and the coming of spring. So in Persephone's story, she leaves the underworld and she goes into her springtime goddess role, also known as Kore, spelled Kore. So someone else may pronounce that differently, but I say Kore. And that means young maiden, beautiful maiden. She is, in this form, in her springtime form, very innocent in a way. She's the bringer of life. She is springtime sunshine, rainbows, nice flowers, She's love, she's light, she's healing, she's happiness. Now, in her underworld form, Persephone, queen of the underworld, not just underworld, but queen of the underworld, she is equal to Hades. She rules over the realm of the dead, and she's very authoritative. She has to keep order. She has to make sure that everyone's doing what they're meant to be doing, and everyone is, everything is running along like clockwork, let's say. So you would think that, a goddess of the underworld and a goddess of spring all in one, that's quite a contradiction, isn't it? Well, everyone has light and dark in them. Everyone and everything. And Persephone, her story and her as a person, as a woman, a goddess, well, she embodies that. She embodies duality. The yin, the yang, the light, the dark, the life and death, the cycle. She is the goddess of the cycle of the life. I don't know why I said it like that. But she is a life cycle in one person. I don't know of any other... Well, I do actually. I was going to say I don't know of any other goddesses quite like that, but I do. And I'm going to explain that in a bit. But that's who she is. She is daughter to Demeter. She is wife to Hades and friend to many, but good friend to Hecate. Hecate is a second mother to her. Now, in the mythologies, her most famous myth, I suppose, is the one where Hades kidnaps her, let's say. So long story short, there's different variations of this myth. I'm not going to give you a history lesson here, but I will just say that, her being Kore, the goddess of spring, Hades spotted her. He was like, I like her, kidnapped her. Some people say she went willingly, some people not. Demeter went, I was going to say crazy, but it kind of crazy. I mean, she was distraught. She couldn't find her daughter. She decided to punish the land, I suppose, but being an agricultural goddess, she refused to let any food grow and things like this. And Zeus stepped in, Hermes stepped in, Hecate stepped in, like everyone stepped in. we stepped in. So Zeus, ultimately, he had to give kind of the final say so as to what was to happen. Now, Zeus is her dad as well. And, well, we won't get into that because gods and goddesses are a bit different, but it's all incestuous, I suppose. But he was the one who said, right, well, half the year you be with Hades, half the year be with your mother, Demeter. And that's where we get the seasons from. It's a parable for that. But while she is in the underworld, Hecate is normally her companion, like a second mother kind of thing. And when it's her time to either come out of the underworld or go back in, Hecate helps guide her in her torchbearer form. And I suppose this is an important day for Hecate too. You know, she's helping her friend, saying goodbye for now and see you again in a bit, in a few months, handing her over to her mother, if you want to take the myths literally, I suppose. But that's it in a condensed nutshell. I mean, there's different nuances, different versions, but that's the most famous myth of Persephone and Hades, I suppose. Now, this may be UPG, but if you are to work with Persephone or worship Persephone, she normally comes hand in hand with her husband, and vice versa. If you work with Hades, Persephone won't be far behind. They love each other so much, like you can feel the love in the room. The love is palpable, if that's the right word. It's like tangible, it's there. Hades adores her so much, and she adores him too. And this time of year, I do find personally there is a sadness in the air. And that sadness is that they miss each other even after all these years. It's like being kept apart in a way, but we'll be together again. You know, it's the waxing and waning of life, of the cycle of the seasons. And it is what it is in a way. But normally if you do work with or worship one, the other is not far behind. Now, I will just tell you, how do I see her? It does depend. Depends on what form she takes. So if she's Kori, if she is the springtime goddess normally, I mean, she normally always has brown hair anyways. A bit like my colour hair, I suppose, like light brown. Very beautiful though. She has it in ringlets, like curls, like when you see Renaissance art that depicts ancient Greece, that kind of stereotypical thing. Flowers in her hair. When she is Kori, it's the flowers in her hair. It's a beautiful white dress with veils and nice silks and golden jewellery and just so flowy and airy and light. But when she is Persephone, she's equally as beautiful, don't get me wrong, but her clothing changes colour. It's a black dress and it's grey and shimmery dark veils and a golden crown and golden jewels in her hair. Very extravagant, very much a queen. Again, I suppose we all have different moods if you think about it like that. Sometimes we want to dress up nice. Sometimes, you know, if it's the summertime, you're not going to go out wearing a coat, are you? It's like that. So that's how I see her. Now, what is my experience with her? Well, it's a complicated story, and I've told it before on this channel, but I'll tell you it again because the story might not be up anymore, or I don't know, because it was in one of the very old videos, but I'll try and condense it. When I first started my practice, Hecate was my first goddess, and she's been with me since day one and ever since. And when I was first getting into deity work and understanding things and, you know, being a pagan, I suppose, understanding how it all works, etc., I did feel another presence around me. Now, back then, I was a novice. I was working off my own experience, I suppose. Yeah, I've done research, etc., but I didn't know how to confirm deities and things like this. I was starting out, you know, but I did feel someone was there. And I thought that someone was Persephone because the energy they had fit the bill in a way, you know. They had this light, caring energy, but also a strict energy. And from the mythologies, Hecate and Persephone are like best friends, like a mother-daughter type of relationship. So I thought, well, it's only natural that it would be her. So I had an altar to Persephone, a statue to her, offerings, everything. And then, out of respect more than anything, I set up one for Hades too, feeling that was the right thing to do. And I still feel Persephone herself was like, well, I want something for him. If you're going to have something for me, have something for him too. And that seems to be a common theme. That's why I mentioned that before. But sometimes the vibes were off. And it wasn't as if it was a trickster. It wasn't as if it was angry or something negative, wanting to feed off my energy or anything like that. Even back then as a novice, I knew it wasn't, a negative entity per se, but I knew something wasn't quite right. So at the time, I got a deity confirmation reading myself. I can't remember who the heck it was. It was somebody online who did it. And what I remember of this reading, my jaw did drop. They told me things that, like, no one else would have known. And then they said, look into the goddess Izanami. Now, my jaw dropped because growing up, I know there's a lot of people like this now, especially now with the internet. But I've always had a special interest about Japan. I've always felt like a connection to Japan and the Far East in general, but especially Japan. And even now I feel a connection to it. I can't describe it. I've never set foot in the place. Hopefully I will one day. Just to visit. That's all I want. Just to say I've been. Anyways, I've always felt this connection to it. Some people say they have that with ancient Egypt, etc. For me, it's Japan. It always has been since a kid. Obsessed with the culture. And it's not just an anime thing either. I like some animes. Some of them, especially the older I've gotten, like no offense to anyone, but I find it hard to get into them. I think some of them are a bit childish. It does depend. I mean, Attack on Titan was pretty good, but even though it's pretty good, and it's amazing actually, not everyone's going to like that. Anyways, I'm digressing about anime. I even now watch YouTubers, especially Westerners, Americans, British people, Australians, that live in Japan and get their take on things. There's one, what's his name? He's a British guy. He's lived in Japan for years and years and years. He reminds me of a younger Jeremy Clarkson. A Brit in Japan or something like that. Brit abroad or something like that. I like his stuff because it's not just this weeaboo, if you know what that is, attitude. It's about that genuinely. The culture of Japan. He goes to places in the countryside, outlandish places. He lets you see the real Japan sort of thing, not just Tokyo, not just Kyoto. Anyways, I'm digressing. I've always had this connection with Japan. So when this reading said Izanami, my jaw dropped. I was like, what? Now, you'll see from that tattoo there. Yeah, Persephone was never Persephone around me. Although there was times I think it was Persephone, and that's when the vibes fell off because she was trying to tell me, it's not me you're looking for. It's not me who wants to help you. You've got it wrong. You're so close. It was Izanami. Now, Izanami, I may do a video on separately. She is still such an important deity to me. She's another one of my spiritual mothers. I'm very lucky. I have 3 spiritual mothers. 4 technically, but it does depend. Hecate, Frigg, Izanami, also Lilith. But Lilith, our relationship's a bit different, and that's a video for another time. But those 3, Hecate, Frigg, Izanami, my main spiritual mothers. And they are with me through past lives, through ancestry, and other soul connections. Now, I don't have any Japanese ancestry, not to my knowledge. I've even done a DNA test, etc. But the reason I have this mega connection with Japan is because I've had several past lives in Japan and around the area when Japan once upon a time had an empire. Okay, now I didn't know any of this back then. I was just starting out, but I did always know about my personal connection. And truly, when I read that name, I was flabbergasted. It was one of those moments where you're like, holy shit, it makes sense. Now, she is arguably the main goddess in Shintoism. And I suppose this is why I haven't really spoke about her. And why she and I will always love her and she's always there for me, but I am not practicing Shintoism. I've kind of drifted apart in a way. I'll explain. Izanami is a goddess of the underworld and of life, like Persephone. There's a lot of correlations, I was thinking of the word, a lot of reflections in their story and in their personalities as well. They both have a soft, loving, motherly side and also a dark, scary, strict side. Now, Izanami, long story short with her, she was the first goddess. Her and her husband, brother, because, that's the way it is. But anyways, Izanagi is his name. The creators of the world, or Japan, and they had several offspring. And long story short, again, there's different nuances here, but poor Izanami died in childbirth while she was giving birth to the fire god, and she was the first ever being to die, and she went to Yomi, which is the Japanese underworld, and Izanagi went after her and couldn't accept the fact his wife has died. And when he found her, she didn't look like herself. She was, I don't like to say it because she isn't to me, but monstrous. That's the way they put it in the myths. And instead of acting rationally, Izanagi threatened her and, well, they had a bit of a fight. Let's just say that. And so Izanami is kind of demonized in a way, and I feel bad for her for that. And when it comes to Izanami and her husband, every time he's mentioned, there is such sadness there. So I won't get too much into it. But she is, like Persephone in that regard, a goddess of life and death. And it's uncannily similar, a lot of their personality traits and things that they went through. Like, oh my gosh, it blew my mind. Now, I will speak about Izanami at some point. She is from Shintoism. Shintoism is not a closed practice. It is open to anyone, I suppose. Shintoism, however, is a complex religion and it's heavily related and linked to Japan. So the reason I don't practice Shintoism is because I've never set foot in Japan. I have no Japanese ancestry. I may have had past lives there, yeah, but I have stronger ties elsewhere. So I feel out of respect to Izanami and her people and the people of Japan, I don't want to trivialize her or the religion as a whole because it's serious business. It's a serious religion. It is sometimes mixed with Buddhism and, like I say, heavily based in Japan, and a lot of the kami, which is a word for deity, there are not just god figures like Izanami or Amaterasu, that's another special lady. They're spirits of the land, of nature, it's kind of animist in a way. Also people's ancestors, which is often found in Far East religions, ancestor worship. So yes, I don't want to step on anyone's toes with that. That's why I haven't really spoke too much about her. But we do speak from time to time. She does have a place on my altar. She used to help me a lot with reading. She was around a lot after that. So after I found out it wasn't Persephone, she's had an altar ever since. She's been with me since the beginning, basically, as an army, and she's tattooed on my skin. That's how much I love her. So much, beyond words. She has helped me on a personal level. I've never sat and done witchcraft with her. It's more a spiritual thing with me and her. And she's helped me as a person inside develop, work through traumas, work through shadow work, healing energy. That's what me and hers worked on, and I'll be forever grateful to her, and she will always have a space in my spiritual life. And as for Persephone, however, because I went off on a tangent about another goddess there, so I realised it wasn't her. And out of respect, I personally said goodbye to her and to Hades. They didn't want to work with me per se. Hades has helped me himself after that, and before that and after that. He has helped me with several particular spells and things like this at Hecate's behest, because again, they're friendly, and it was like, well, he can help you, ask him. It was a short-term thing. I respect both of them, and the statues I had for them, I gave them to another practitioner who at the time, I think we've lost touch now. She sometimes watches my stuff. If you're watching, hello. But I mailed them to her so they didn't go to waste, because she was worshipping Hades at the time. I don't know if she still does, but yes, so, their stuff didn't go to waste. I learned valuable lessons as well, that deity work isn't that straightforward. It doesn't have to be complex, but sometimes we don't realise who we are speaking with. Even the most advanced people. I mean, I wasn't as advanced as I am now. But even back then, sometimes there may be a god out there that we don't even know their name. And I've come to realise this when I do these deity confirmations for people. At time of filming, I've met some new gods and goddesses that I didn't even know existed, and some new spirits. I mean, I met a spirit from the Peri from ancient Persia, who are kind of like, in a way, compared to the Fae. I didn't even know that was a thing. Didn't even know that existed. But someone's guardian was one of them. And I'm like, oh, okay, hello. I know about you now. It blows your mind when you get into it. There's so many nuances in history. So many different epithets, so many different deities. Oh, there's my house bunny did a sneeze. So many different things. So yes, you may be speaking with Thor, but it might not be him. It could be, I don't know, Perun. That was off the top of my head. You just never know. There's so many different archetypes that are so similar. It's hard to pin down. Anyways, you can probably tell throughout this video I'm squinting because these lights are blinding me. Blinding me. I hope this helped. Persephone is a lovely energy to be around. She will teach you boundaries. She's very much dark feminine in that regard. She has kind of Lilith type energy. Lilith and then Aphrodite type energy. And I know some people say don't compare them because there's a myth where her and Aphrodite don't get along. But honestly, I think they're fine. I think they're cool. Take things with a pinch of salt. And yeah, if you want to work with her, do so. Days to honour her would be today, spring equinox at time of filming. Also, winter time, when she returns to the underworld. Depends on the side of her that you're wanting to work with or worship. She goes without saying it, she loves pomegranates. That's her main thing. She loves all flowers, but in experience, she didn't like daisies. Once I tried to give her little daisies and she didn't want them off me. But find out for yourself, because it might be the context of the things, might be the context they're given in. But yeah, she likes flowers. She likes fruit in general, wine, grapes. That's part of fruit, obviously. Olives, breads. Being kind. I know that sounds soppy in a way, but if you can be kind to others, kind to animals, if you're able to rescue an animal in her honour, especially a vulnerable one, I don't know, like she's putting in my head like a little old dog or something like that, you know, the one that no one else wants, that kind of vibe. Also gardening, if you're able to look after some plants or grow your own vegetables even, you know. I know that's getting more into her mother's territory, but she appreciates that. But she loves nice well-kept gardens and flowers and things like this. I mean, that goes without saying. And even in the winter time, there's certain flowers that flourish in the winter and certain flowers that are linked with winter, like the poinsettia. I don't know if that's how you say that plant's name. I always pronounce it wrong. It's that red Christmas time plant. She's putting that in my head. But yeah, and stand up for the vulnerable. That's what she likes. Standing up for the vulnerable and also standing up for yourself, you know, to not let yourself be taken advantage of or taken for a ride. No, stand up for yourself, because that's who she is as a woman. Even if you look at the mythologies, etc., even if you look at, you know, her story with Hades, and yeah, 9 out of 10 of the stories say that he kidnapped her and all of this, what she's saying, and I hope she doesn't get offended by my take on this, how I word it, but she went from one controlling relationship to another. Some people say her mother is controlling, and hell, whether or not that's out of love, that's up for you to decide, I suppose. But, you know, she was very much controlled by her mother and then controlled by her husband. But was she? Was it really control? Because I do strongly feel like, especially when it comes to Hades and Persephone, she wears the trousers. With the greatest of respects to Hades, he dotes on her, and like, she is so dominant, like powerful. You know, she's not someone to be messed with. Don't mess with her. Show her respect. Oh, you know, I don't like to fearmonger here, but she is someone who would teach you a lesson if you were disrespectful. So yeah, I don't know what else to really say about her, but that's my experience with her. Sorry if I went off track a few times there. I hope it has helped. I know several of you have asked for this numerously. So yeah, there we are. That's my little offering to her as well on spring equinox, to have sat down and filmed this. I'm going to actually do a little offering spell thing to her. I might post it on Patreon at some point. I was out and about and I saw this jar with a peony on. It was only £1, this jar, and I felt I'd be like, I want the jar, and she wants us to do something with the jar, so I'm going to do something with the jar. So yeah, if you are interested in me talking about another deity or spirit, let me know. And if you want to see any more videos like this, if you want to learn about other spirits or deities or hear about what I've got to say about them, well, check out my videos. They'll be suggested shortly, and yeah, subscribe. So until next time, stay safe, stay witchy. Bye.